Welcome! In this video we will look at the creation and accessing of arrays using the PowerBasic Console Compiler. In this video we're going to cover a little more about arrays and add a few shortcuts to make life easier for the programmer. In our last video we created an array to store weekday information. We're going to expand on that slightly. We're going to create a new type. This type's going to have three elements in it: a numeric number, a string, which will be a name, and a value. Now, since this is going to be a console application, we'll want to prepare the console again. So to save us some time, we're going to use a macro, which we can use in future videos. Now, as we've mentioned in previous videos, macros are little mini functions you can use throughout your program that, if they're never referenced, they don't take up any memory or space in the eventual executable, but they can save you a great deal of time. Now, this little macro here effectively is going to take in as one parameter a title, and in this case you don't actually have to dimension the passing of this variable. We're then going to set the caption of the console to be whatever the title you passed in, the colour to be 6 and 0, and the location of the screen to be 30 pixels from the top left hand corner and 60 pixels down. Now, if we actually put this macro at the beginning of our code, paste it in and give it the title. At compile time, what PowerBasic will do, PowerBasic will substitute these three lines of text for the one line of text that you've put here, and it will take in your parameter quite happily. So if we put our usual line at the end to, there we go. So if we run this now, it prepares our console, it's sized our console on screen, we'll placed it on the screen and set the colour. So that little macro function we can actually use for any of our future programs. Now, what we want to do here is we want to prepare an array as an array of this type. So we're dimensioning an array called astrname with effectively elements going from 0 to 6 as unames. In our previous video we did this to set for days of the week, which we're just going to use the same idea again here. Now, to save putting all the code inside the main PB main function, we're going to create a couple of extra functions here to do some work for us. First of all, we want to basically build and populate this array. So we're going to create a function called funBuildTheArray. We're passing by reference a pointer effectively to the location in memory where this array actually sits. So if we copy this, and we'll create a function down here. Now this function is going to contain the code which is actually going to populate our array. So we're going to create a for next loop that's going to go from the lower bounding of this array to the top bounding of the array. This way you don't have to hard code the upper and lower limits of the array, it will basically work them out for you. Now what we want to do next is we want to set the values of each element in this array. Now to save a bit of typing, we're going to use the prefix command. Now what we've done here is we've used the prefix command to set up the beginning of the line we're going to be using, which is basically the name of the array and the element number, followed by the user-defined type's name. In this case the number, the name and the value. The name is just going to be basically the day of the week based on the ordinal number. 0 for Sunday, 1 for Monday and so on. And then we're just going to put in a random value between 1 and 10 for the value. So that should hopefully, assuming we've made no syntactical mistakes, which we appear to have done, we haven't specified that this is a string array. So quite correctly is reminding us we needed to define that. And we haven't defined long R yet. Right, hopefully that'll be the last of our syntax errors. No, it's not. Right, what it's actually complaining about is the fact that it's not a string array, it is actually an array of a user-defined type. So, all our errors are now out, program's happy. So having built the array, the next thing we want to do is to display the array on the console. So rather than writing the code individually, since we're going to be reusing this, we will create another function whose job it is to actually print out the array. And we'll call this function print the array. Again, we're passing by reference the name of the array we want to actually print out. So if we create another function, which is going to be this. Now this function, as I said, is going to print out the array, so the first thing we should do is actually define the counter. And then we're going to do basically what we did in the build one. It will be a for next loop. And within the for next loop, we're actually going to print out the details. Right, what we've done here, we've done 3 lines, each of them outputting to the console. The first one's outputting the long number part of the array, and at the end of formatting this to a string, so we actually append onto the end of that a couple of one space, and if you put this semicolon at the end of this line, it means it's not going to do a new line at the end, it's just going to go continue on the same line. And then on the same line, we're actually putting out the name, which in itself is a string, and then the final part, without the semicolon at the end, is the value. And if we compile this, and what did we miss out? We put a comma in there rather than a dot. Compile that, and it's quite happy. So we look back at our original program. What we have is we've prepared a console, we've dimensioned an array of this user-defined type, we have built the array, i.e. populated it, and we should print out to the console. So if we run that now, we should quite happily see the values we expect to see. The element number, 0 to 6, the day of the week based on the element number, and a random number at the end. This is much similar to the last video. What we're going to do next is we're going to do a bit of manipulation on the array itself. Now, if we wanted to delete a record from the array, how would we go about it? Well, let's just put a blank line in here just to separate what we put output to the console to what we're about to put out. Now there are a number of array commands we can use quite happily. This command here, the array delete command, will actually delete one element of the array. Now we have between 0 and 6, 0 being the Sunday, and the first element, element number 1, would be the Monday. So we're asking it to delete the Monday. Now how do we know if that's actually done it or not? Well, we can print the array out again and see what we get. If we try running that now, we will see the original array, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on up to Saturday. And the second array has the Sunday, it's missing the Monday, it's got element 2 for Tuesday, all the way up to Saturday. And at the end of the array, where the last element was, is now blank. When you do a delete, it effectively shifts all the records up. Therefore, the last element in the array will default to be whatever the default for the variable type is. The default for a long is a 0, and the default for a string is an empty line string. So it's effectively giving you a blank line at the end. This is quite expected. So that shows you how you can delete a day. How do you insert a day? Well, again, we'll put the blank line in between our arrays, and we'll use the array insert command. Now remember, we've just deleted one element of the array, so we're now going to put it back and see what the program actually does. And again, we will print it out to see what we actually get. So if we run that now, we'll see the 3 ones. Our original one, Monday, is there. The second one, the Monday, is missing because we deleted it. And in the third one, there is a blank entry where the Monday would go. So though we've actually inserted a blank element, there's nothing in it. You haven't populated it yet. And everything else is moved down, so you haven't lost any data. So let's say we wanted to insert one and actually give it some data. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to, after the insertion of this blank element, we're going to put one in. Now there's a couple of ways we can actually do this. What we will do before we actually do the printing, we'll do the insertion in here. And we're going to set up a pointer to the user-defined type we've been using, the uname. And then we're going to put a value into it. Now what we've done here is we have created our pointer variable pointing towards the uname type. We have populated that variable with using a var pointer command to the first element, and it has to be the first element of the array. Now once you've done that, you can then use your pointer commands. So we want to fill in that 0 element. Now we could fill it in by putting 3 lines of code in, but let's do something a little different. Let's create a subroutine, and we'll call it subfill name. Now we want to give it a number of parameters. We want to tell it where the pointer is. So we'll pass the pointer as a parameter. We'll say we want to put it into element 1 because element 1 is the one we inserted. And we want to put a value in, so let's just call it my day. And we want to put something into the value field, the long value field, so let's put 42 in. So what we want to do then, we want to create a new subroutine to handle this task of insertion. Now we're going to pass 4 parameters to this subroutine. The first one is going to be a by val, because we're passing a pointer. The second parameter is going to be the number, which is our element. And the next two parameters are going to be basically the day and the value. So, how are we actually going to do that then? Now, since we're passing the ARR variable as a pointer to the unames, we can use the pointer syntax to say we're looking at the pointer ARR, and since we know that the element we want to change we're passing in a number field, we put that in square brackets, and then the element of the part of the user-defined type we're trying to change, like so. So the @ sign at the beginning, the name of the pointer we passed, the element of the array we want to access, in this case 1, and the field within the user-defined type we want to update, and then what we're putting into that particular part of the array. And the same for the others. So, this should fill in our array with all the information we're passing it. So we try that now. And what have I missed? What about its unames? It's not uname, it's unames. And it's long value. Right, okay. So there's our first one with all the days in. There's our second array with the Monday removed. Here's the third one with my day put in instead of the Monday. So we've effectively taken an entry out of the array, shifted all the data up, we've inserted a new element into the array and populated it with some values. So we have created an array, deleted an element, inserted an element. If we wish to insert another element into the array, effectively one element will fall off the end because there are 7 elements in total, and if we add another one, although it will move all the records down, the very last record in the end will drop off the end of the array and will effectively disappear. So what we need to do is to effectively redimension the array, make it bigger. So if we prepare to do another insert, what we want to do first is a redim, to redimension with preserve, so we don't lose any information, the array. Now we know how big the array is going to be, so we're going to set the upper bound and add 1 to it. So effectively it'll be between 0 and 7. Now it's important after you redimension the array that if you've got any pointers pointing towards that array, you repoint them to where the array is again. So basically this line of code up here, which populated our pointer, we will redo that piece of code so it points to the right place, because although the previous one did point to the array, you have redimensioned the array, which basically creates it in a new array in memory, so you need to repoint your array again. And then we can use our insert command. So we will insert another new record in element 1, and we'll want to fill that, so we'll use our fill command again, and just to be sure we've got the right information in the right place, we will change the values, and then after that we will then print out the array. So what we should get on this is we should get into the first element of the array a brand new value called my new day. So if we run that now, there we go. We have the Sunday, we have the my new day which we've just put in, the my day which was there previously moved down, Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to Friday and to Saturday. So we now have an array of 8 elements rather than 7. So just to recap on what we've actually done in this particular video, we've created a user-defined type with 3 different pieces of information stored within it. We have prepared a console using a macro. We have created an array of that user-defined type. We created a function to build that and populate that array, and a function to print the array. And then we've demonstrated using the array delete command to remove an element from the array, and all the other elements of the array move up 1, and the very last element in the array becomes blank. We've inserted a new value in to the array, and we've used a pointer to actually point towards where that array is, and we've created a subroutine which effectively allows us to fill in the data within that using pointer syntax. And finally, we have redimensioned the array to make it bigger. We've then repointed the pointer variable at the new location of the redimensioned array. We've inserted a new value in, we have populated that, and we've printed it out. So there are many things you can do with arrays when you combine them with the array commands and pointers. Thank you for watching.